Okay, thank you guys. Moving on. So win a question. So three questions there: 4, 5, or 6.
I'll go for my favorite number out of those six, number 4.
Okay, which reads: Has social media made us more connected or more fake?
If you're talking to me personally, definitely more connected.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any more fake people than there was before. They just got a platform to be fake on it. So I don't think it's made it. Well, yeah, I don't think it's made it any worse. I just think that people are easily encouraged by the fakeness. But um, um, yeah, I know. Yeah, I think that for me, it's a tool to engage like we're doing now and communicate.
Mm,
Um,
mm.
no, I wouldn't say it's something that has made me more fake. No, it's a tool to be used to be educated to my best ability.
But
Is
what
there a
about
lot more
others? Though? What about
fake?
others? Though, Win? What about generically though?
Um, it's difficult. I don't know. I think the younger generation are easily kind of led, isn't it?
Mm,
So they would
mm,
be more encouraged by people that are pretending to be something that they're not actually, and they don't really understand the levels of skill and hard work it takes to become, um, someone of impact. It's just easy to just jump on TV and do tomfoolery, so to speak, and make loads of money out of it. So has that made people more fake? Probably,
yeah.
probably.
Mm.
Um, but at the same time, it's entertaining, isn't it? So if you're going to be clowning, you're just going to be clowning. And I think it must be in your nature to be like that, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think you're going to get into social media to be genuinely fake. I don't think it works like that. I do believe people are easily led and they will do stuff to make money. That's not genuine. Of course they would.
Mm.
Who wouldn't if you're in a difficult position? You would.
Mm.
But for me personally, I would say that it's a tool for to be used to enhance communication, enhance the skills sets that I have. So yeah, no, I wouldn't lose it to be fake because I'm just not a fake person anyway. But you know, if you look around the world, I don't really see it like that because, again, when I socialize with social media, I'm doing it from a position of trying to learn something generally.
Mm. Mm.
Um, and when I'm just scrolling stuff, which I have done, and you do get the dancing and all the kind of like crazy stuff, and
Mm.
and people just doing stuff for gratification. Um, I suppose certain parts of it's entertaining. So, um, yeah, I would say that. Yeah, some people are doing it for that reason, and some people are doing it for genuine purposes. Um, yeah, that's all I can really say on that. To be fair, I don't really know
I
much.
think I think the question with is it brought people closer with connection or um like basically encourage fakeness. I don't, I don't think there's an
Yeah.
or. I don't think the or is kind of. I'll take that out of the question because I think it's a bit of both. But I think especially for young people, I think the peer pressure is just different now. We had peer pressure when we was at school from our peers around us. Now this peer pressure can be from worldwide. So
Mm.
I think there's a lot of young people that are getting into they're seeing that person look like this.
Mm.
We had this before, Cosmopolitan and all them old Vogue and all them old magazines before social media, the glossy and the touch up with artists and all this kind of stuff. So it's been there from before social media. As Winston said, this is just giving people a platform to be so.
Mm.
Just to be this and show their fakeness out there.
Mm.
So, and unfortunately, I think people are, I think they're peer pressured into a lot of this nonsense.
Mm.
Um, and unfortunately, it's been highlighted that some of these fake people have made a lot of money doing silly things.
Yeah.
So, have a guess what happens to the ones behind them? Oh, well, if I do certain silly things, I'm going to make said money. And
Mm.
as we know, it's still like 0.1% that are making that
Mm.
money,
Mm.
and the rest are just made to look daft on the internet.
Mm.
You know, there's a lot of mocking and bullying going on. I mean, I remember I used to think when I heard young people say, "I'm getting bullied online," you only got to turn the plug off. But that's because I'm older and I didn't understand it. Do you know what I mean? Just turn the plug off, mate. You'll be all right. You know, but it wasn't like when you was. It wasn't like when you was in the school and you get a punch in the face if you
So,
if you're
someone's
acting
walking
bad.
around with a ratchet.
Right, right.
So that kind of bullying. Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's a
Yeah,
lack. But from an age
Yeah.
perspective, that's a lack of understanding on my because this is the new form of communication. So I now accept it that it's a lack of understanding on my part. That was how I used to look at it.
Yeah.
Turn the plug
Yeah.
off. But actually, I don't think it works like that, and I'm out of touch. I try to use it in this form. Communication for me is when I'm talking to you guys, when I'm talking to other people around the world that I've met, and just that
Yeah.
connection with them. It's beautiful like that. But social media for me is I look for two things on it. If I'm honest with you, I look for good music, and I look for stand-up comics. You know, and then outside of that, right? What can I use the internet to learn something for? What if I need to do some research? What what
100%.
what peer paper can I go and read?
Mm.
You know, what can I go and look up here? But outside of that, just for relaxing, it's either good music or a good stand-up comic. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all I'm really using it for.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking like maybe the 16, 15, 16, 17-year-old me would probably be all over the tomfoolery right by now. So, and that probably would have influenced my behavior as well. So I can understand from this generation, the generation that's coming up, their point of view that it must be difficult to kind of swerve away from the tide of what's going on out there. But I don't know enough
No, exactly.
about what is going on
Yeah,
to really give a logical kind of summary.
100%. Same.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I think a bit of both. To be honest, do you know what I mean? I think definitely the reach of social media now is just crazy. To be honest, do you know what I mean? You know, in terms of coverage and connection, it's 24/7 and it's worldwide, and that has to be managed. I think individually and as human being, and we touched on about parenting before and stuff like that. I think having a digital diet, I think is so important, to be honest, and vital, particularly in young people. And in terms of being fake, checks and balances. We spoke about this before, anyway. I think unfortunately we live in a world where what is real? Do you know what I mean? And you can quite easily get caught up in a tide of, whatever. To be honest, do you know what I mean? So, I'm very particular about what I try to digest for myself personally. And I'm like you. I know what I'm like. Particularly like with this, TikTok, and you could be, you could be swiping, you could be there before you know it. It's 3-4 hours have passed you, and what have you actually consumed?
Nothing.
It's a lot of nothingness, So I'm quite particular at times. Do you know what I mean? There are times where I'll just try my best as much as I can to put it down and do something else. Do you know what I mean? Because it's quite difficult to know what's real and what's not real half the time. And if you're a young, impressionable person, let's say, that that can be quite difficult. And some of the stuff that, as you said, Nick, that that this modern world, it's quite alien for us, really, because it wasn't around when we were there. So do you know what I mean? It's easy for us to say, come off, or why don't you come off Instagram? Why don't you come off this? Why don't you come off that? It's not so easy to do for some young people.
No, absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? Because it's part of their whole social way of doing things. Do you know what I mean? It's the norm norm to be on a range of social media
Yeah.
platforms. It's quite a norm, you know.
Well, I see children in buggies with mobile phones.
No way.
No, I've seen it. I've seen it. I don't know what they're on, but
Yeah, bro.
I don't know whether or not they're
the buggy.
doing. But
They don't
In a
use
buggy.
pacifiers no more. They don't use pacifiers. They use mobile phones. They're pacified. Like they're just scrolling.
I don't know if they're scrolling YouTube. I don't know.
They're watching something.
Watching something. Do you know what I mean?
It's not just there for the time, I'm sure.
Yeah. So it's a different world, isn't it?
Not actually going to be taking phone calls, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're watching Sesame Street.
Looking at crypto and that.
Playing poker.
We don't know. We don't know what they're doing. We don't know.
There could be some entrepreneurial business.
That remind me of that. Remember that Dave Chappelle thing? Hey, baby, go home.
Oh, yeah. Go home, baby. What are you doing out here, baby?
Right.
Oh, shit.
Okay. All right. So the last two are mine. So I'm going to go for question 5, I think. Which reads, should all discussions around religion or politics be banned in public spaces regardless of belief or affiliation?
Shall I go on that?
Please.
No, I don't think it should. There should be. I think there should be. I mean, you got for instance, you got Speaker's Corner, and there's a lot of religious discussion going on, and a lot of it's educational. It's good. It's good to hear it. It's good to hear other people's points of view. It becomes an issue when you got people that are ignorant and arrogant, or you got like young men who are puffing up their chest with regards to their education on spirituality, and they're like 30. They think they know everything. You're having a laugh. You're having a laugh. Me myself, I'm an old man. I read scriptures from pillar to post 3 times. I still don't know nothing. I still hardly know anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just really now I'm really kind of getting to really understand what it's all about, because I'm maturer. Because when you're 20 and when you're 30 and you're looking at spirituality, you're looking at it from a 20, 30-year-old's point of view. So when you get these young people that are out on doing their business, talking about God, wherever one it is, and it's great to listen to. I love listening to the debates, but I generally think to myself that you really haven't got a clue. You haven't got a clue. To really get to that stage where you really understand scriptures, you have to mature with it. You have to be married with it. You have to have had children with it. You have to have had grandchildren with it. That's when you start coming into your own, because those experiences teach you a lot more about what wisdom is about, and what God is about. Because you can't really know what God is about and you haven't had a child, for instance, because that relationship between you and your child becomes like that relationship that I understand that you have with God. So there's a familiarity once you get to a certain age group with spirituality. So I think it's a great thing to have open dialogue about everything. I think it's really important. I think if you took it away, what do you have? If you did take it away, if you don't have a spiritual element of society, what do you have in place of that? Yeah. So for me, no, I think it's good that people are communicating about it, and I encourage it. I think it's good. I think it's good.
Nick,
I'm trying not to laugh behind my hand. I feel like I've been set up a little bit. And I hear you about Speaker's Corner, but just on that, there's, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of hours of video of people, I'm going to put in air quotes, debating. That's no debate I've ever heard. I've never heard a debate in Speaker's Corner. Never heard one. I've heard shouting matches.
I'll tell you some.
I've heard lectures. I've heard shouting. I've seen violence.
Okay.
Well, one second. But what I
Yeah.
am saying to you is, I've never seen a debate go on where one human being has convinced another to see from their perspective in Speaker's Corner. It's never happened.
Yeah.
Should that discourse go on? Yeah, of course, absolutely.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
I,
Mhm.
I have because I, because I have no understanding, no comprehension of this um, God character. I
Yeah.
I struggle with a lot of it. So then to be told to hear certain bits about it is really disturbing. We were talking about freedom of speech earlier, and I want all religious people to have freedom of speech. But when I'm hearing that I'm gonna burn in hell forever, I can't think of anything more hateful than that in all my life.
Mm.
But and yet,
Mm.
we're told that we have to curb our speech. There seems
Mm.
to be a lot of there
Mm.
seems to be a lot of leeway in that area. That okay, well, I'm saying it's about God, so therefore I never said it. This geezer said it, and I struggle with that. I struggle with that. I struggle with that a lot because I think I have to
Mm.
curb my speech
Mm.
for hatred, and yet people of a religious connotation can tell me you are going to hell.
Mm.
Well, I can't think of anything. Yeah, like I said, I can't think of anything more hateful. So yes, I want the speech to continue, but I've never
Mm.
seen I'm not going to give it the credence of calling those debates in, because they're not.
Mm.
That's rabble. They're that's an absolute rabble down there, and it's no more than that in my opinion,
Mm.
from what I see.
Mm. Okay.
Done.
So no, thanks, Nick and Win. So no, I believe it should continue, but I believe in designated public space, and that's not just for religion. I think, and for political as well. I would think I did the question was political and religious debates,
Mm.
because sometimes it's not always appropriate. I think where it is. I mean, if I'm on a bus, do I necessarily want somebody talking to me about politics when I'm trying to get from Streatham to Brixton? No, I don't. I don't. I just want to go to Brixton.
You can always put your headphones on it.
Well, they could always, but he could always not do it as well.
It's true.
Do you know what I mean? So for me, it should continue, but I would put a caveat in there. It should be in designated public spaces and not every public space, because I believe that we should be able to live neutrally in peace. And sometimes I might not want to be knowing about, I don't want to be hearing about religion on the way down to Brixton, and I might not want to be hearing about politics on the way down to Brixton. Do you know what I mean? And I do understand that sometimes people, if it's Islamic, people need responsibility to give dawah or to go out and on the ministry, and I get all of that. Do you know what I mean? But not everybody is. It's not acceptable for everybody. You know. So my view is, I would put a caveat in there. It should continue, but in appropriate and designated spaces. That's my own personal view. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I would agree with you. I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I think in terms of politics, that gets shoved down your throat every day.
Yeah.
With no apology. Do I think religion should be that way as well? No, I don't. I think you're right. It should. There's a time and a place for everything, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And there's a season for it as well. But I think like when it comes to these kind of stuff, I think that we do need to kind of like step back sometimes and really reason with things and be seasoned with it, because like I said, my spirituality when I was younger in comparison to what it is now, it's a completely different game. It's a far more it's a far more the experience that I have with spirituality right now is it's not even on this plane. If you hear what I'm saying, like it's that consciousness that I have within. That's where my spirituality is more than anything else. That relationship with my inner self, that conversation that I have with myself, I'm finding more God in there than outside anywhere. To be honest with you, I think I've learned enough in terms of understanding the key instruments to who, what, why, and when. So I think that for me, it's a really personal thing now, spirituality. It's really what myself and the creator is got going on.
Right.
I don't need to like reason with scripture right now. It's not, for me, it's not that deep. Like I said, I understand the basics. Now my relationship is spiritual. It's actually dealing with the energy that who God is and how it impacts me. But I mean, going back to what you're saying, do I think there is a space for it? Yes, I do. I think Speaker's Corner is a good space, and even if those debates that are going on there are not to my kind of appreciation, 100%, I'm still getting an education, because there's some of the things that are being debated over the last, let's say, for instance, over the last 5 years, I've listened to stuff that I've heard on at Speaker's Corner. I've learned quite a bit. I've learned quite a bit. I've learned quite a bit about what I don't like and what I do like, about what people have to say, and I've learned a lot about what I find within Scripture that is a reality from the way that I understand it. I mean, people have their own views, don't they? I mean, people say things like Nick said, they channel on the, let's say, for instance, the hellfire thing.
Yeah.
Do they really even understand what that is? Do we really understand what the implications of what they were saying in terms of hellfire? Is that actually true? Or young people or people that don't really have enough understanding of the hellfire scenario, and then they start throwing those words out? I don't think it's all about that, really. I don't think it's about hellfire. It's not. I don't think God's gonna hellfire somebody. That's not how it works. But there's implications of, let's say, for instance, of your spirit or an energy that does not die will always be present. What happens? It's a question that you can kind of like, whether you're spiritual or not. It's a question that you can ponder on and try and grasp what was actually meaning. Is that really a loving God that's going to put people on fire and burn them? Da 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 da. I don't know. It's not the relationship. It's not the relationship that I have with God. You get me?
Yeah.
It's not like that. So I don't personally believe in that. I mean, and that kind of stuff. I don't believe in it. But I mean, everybody has their own views of these things, don't they? So
absolutely.
I think for me, I kind of grown up with it, and I just have a completely different kind of Buddhist kind of mentality towards it all. There's a lot of stuff that started in the beginning that don't necessarily have a place really right now, because it's not really about like the rituals of ancient times. You know what I mean? It's where we are now is completely different. But yeah, long story. Maybe we should do this podcast or something on its own.
Okay, right. So conscious of time, it's the last question, which is, and it's quite cool that we ended on this one, because it's not so whatever. Which it reads: who is the greatest football manager of all time, and what makes him stand out?
Arteta, because he's the second highest paid manager, won bugger all, and he still kept his job. That's the greatest hoax I've ever heard of.
Cool.
Bamboozle.
You know, there's a couple. Obviously, I'm going to say somebody like Fergie. Then you can't leave out Shankly.
Is that your choice then, Fergie?
Greatest manager of all time.
Winston's going to AI.
I know he is. I didn't think he needed that. But
I mean, Pep's got to be in the shout. I think Fergie's got to be in the shout. I think Shankly's got to be in the shout. But
But to you, give me one.
I'm gonna go for Fergie. Of course, I'm gonna go
You're
for
gonna
Fergie.
go for Fergie?
Yeah, it's my
Why?
era. Yeah.
Why?
Um, took Manchester United from a mediocre team, and when I say mediocre, when I was supporting them late 70s, early 80s, when I was following them, then they was middle of the table. The only one game I remember every season was when we used to play our biggest rivals, Liverpool, and we would turn up for that game. Apart from that, always hovering about mid-table. Fergie come. Do I need to explain what he done? Treble, class of '92.
Yeah.
Just he raised that club back into the giant that it is, and unfortunately we're going through another patch now. But I remember when Fergie was there and they were selling people like Beckham and Jaap Stam was going, and I just remember saying to everybody, "We'll be okay as long as Fergie's there." And I think, I mean, that was right. That was right, I think.
I think it's a good shout. I think it's a good shout.
He's there. He's there or thereabouts.
And of course, what he done at Aberdeen as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that's a
So
good
that's my
argument.
shout,
Win.
it's Fergie.
Thank you, Mick.
I think like you know what I'm going to say, innit? It's Shankly all day long, but
You think so?
But I mean, it's different eras, because in my younger days it would be these three. It would be Bill Shankly, Matt Busby, Bob Paisley.
Mm.
But in modern times, I've got to say, Ancelotti, Jose Mourinho, Pep Guardiola, and
Pep.
Alex Ferguson. Who's the best out of those four managers?
What do you
Fergie
think?
for me. Fergie for me.
Fergie, Nick goes for Fergie.
Fergie, and then it'll be Pep, I think.
I think I'm going Ancelotti. You know, he's done it. He's done it at a number of different clubs.
He's done it with AC Milan. He's done it with Real Madrid, and Chelsea.
Mm. He didn't win the Champions League with Chelsea, did he?
No, he didn't win the Champions League, but he done a double.
Who would you say, Mike? What manager would you say? Sharon down at Asda.
No. He's not as decorated as those lot.
Okay.
But for what he did with a provincial team, Brian Clough.
Good shout.
Yep.
Good shout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Old school.
To win back to back.
Yeah.
Modern day Champions League.
Yeah.
You mean European Cup back to back with an unfashionable provincial team?
Yeah.
Is unheard of.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Not only that, he won the title with Derby, and he also won with Forest. I think Forest got promoted from the old second division, and in their first season back in the first division, with the old style first division, he won the league.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's got to be in it. Should have got the England job, and he only didn't get the England job because of his reputation, and the FA didn't want to deal with him. But should have got the England job.
Wasn't a yes man, was he?
He wasn't a yes man.
Mm.
You know, I think Clough doesn't get his flowers.
No. You know what? That's I wouldn't argue against that shout either with Clough.
Yeah.
And you hear great old players like, not be a funny, Keane. You ask him who the best manager he ever played for?
Yeah.
Clough.
He doesn't say Fergie. He says Clough.
No. And I think if Fergie was the best manager he played for, even though they didn't get on, I still think he would give Fergie his flowers if he was the best manager. But hands down, he says Clough.
Got Arsene Wenger down on this list. There's about 50 managers here.
I don't think Wenger is with those.
Well, the
guys.
way you lot booed him out of the stadium, I hope not.
Well, I mean, I don't think it was booed. I think he was ushered along his way. I think it was ushered along his way.
You got to give Josie. You got Jose Mourinho's got to give him credits, man.
Mourinho, he's won Champions League with two different clubs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Pep is up there for me. Pep is he's a big manager. Pep Guardiola.
Pep. No, I must admit, Pep's there.
Mm.
Pep's
there. Yeah.
Greatest of all time?
I wouldn't say Pep's the greatest of all time for me.
No, see, I think I didn't. You're right, Mike. I didn't think of him. He didn't come to mind. But it's rude. Clough has got to be in that shout. I think Fergie's
think
got
so.
Fergie's got to be in that shout. Busby's got to be in that shout. For
Yeah.
me, there's quite a few of them, and I think it would just be. I'm not qualified to say, so my opinion. I'm biased, man. I'm going Fergie.
Yeah.
Shankly is definitely the best manager of all time.
Mm.
You know, bringing Liverpool from the first division to European Championships. No, there's no Arsenal manager that's done something like that, is there?
No.
I'm not gonna. I mean, I could, but I'm not.
Fergie's job wasn't as hard as that.
I wasn't going to go Wenger, but I'm not going to go there because you're going to say I'm going too back, so I'm going to leave it. But you can Google it, Herbert Chapman. But I'm not going to say nothing.
Herbert Chapman?
Chapman.
He's a comedian.
No, he's in Family Guy.
Charlie Chaplin's
He's in
brother.
Family Guy.
Charlie Chaplin's brother.
3 domestic titles on the bounce.
What years?
You
What
know
years,
what I mean?
Mike? What decade?
It was the 19th. But again, I'm not
The
going.
1930s.
Go on. 19 when?
Yeah, it was in the 1930s.
Wow.
But when everybody was at war.
But that was a level playing field.
It certainly was. There weren't no men playing football.
Yeah,
They were at war.
well.
Is that
I'm
when the
just saying.
referees wore blazers, Mike?
But no, if you were to do a Google search, I think he would be
A
considered-
monocle and that.
No,
Monocle
he would
and
be considered a great manager. He would be. He
cravat
would be.
and
Of his time, you know. But yeah. But no, that's brilliant. But
he's not on that list.
just before we wrap up, how have you guys found tonight's pod? A little bit different, wasn't it?
I quite liked it, you know.
Yeah, it's a little bit different. Do you know what I mean? And it kind of got us thinking a bit, isn't it, about different things.
There was overlaps on that for me, Mike, if I'm going to be honest with you, because I am conscious that I'm not out to offend. So it goes back to that
Yeah.
freedom of speech thing. And yet, when we spoke about the religious or political talk,
Yeah,
we've spoken. All three of us have spoken in depth about you guys' view on that stuff and my view on that stuff. And it's really strange, isn't it? Because they're complete opposites to each other in a lot of ways, and yet I don't want to use the word opposing because they're not opposing. Because if anything, it's made me respect and understand more of, I think, part of the reasons why we hold our friendship the way that we do.
yeah.
You know, I've said to you guys,
Yeah.
there's certain bits within me that when I hear about how you guys view that religious kind of side, that God kind of side, I'm kind of like, wow, it's awesome. It's just, I know it's just not there for me, and I'm not going to be a hypocrite and say, okay, I found this geezer that I haven't been looking for. Do you know what I mean? Because for me, it's just that it's not there for me, and it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
There's no harm, no
Yeah.
no foul.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's trying to be careful not to offend. That's my bit, and I don't mean you
Yeah.
two because we offend each other all the time. I'm not worried
Yeah.
about us.
Yeah.
I think there's lots of people out there with different views on religion, and it's just like I'm saying, like you got young people that are their chest is high with it, you know what I mean, and they start chatting and their stuff, and they don't really know the implications of what they're actually saying because they're reading the word and they're thinking, yeah, okay, they're now filled with the spirit, and they start reeling off stuff.
Mm.
But
You're right, Win. You're absolutely right. And can I just add to that really quickly? The main people that I would be worried about offending are the religious.
yeah, they are, because
Now that's a problem in and of itself.
yeah, but it's a problem that needs to be highlighted.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
need to be highlighted because they need to know that their passion for what they understand is offensive. Do you understand what I mean? It comes across offensive.
Your zeal blinds you.
Yeah,
Mm.
but Jesus was he's a lot more measured with how he communicated and how he spoke about the word. He got his points across. Everybody understood what was going on, but when did he poke anyone in the eye? It's very, very rare.
Mm.
The only people that got that kind of level of criticism from him were those ones that deserved it.
The scribes and
Talking
the
about
Pharisees.
the Pharisees and scribes and
there's
people like
nothing.
in high places. He even didn't even communicate with the Romans in that manner. He respected their authority. But those people that were meant to be religious, he kind of dealt with them. But I know, I mean, we can continue this discussion in a moment.
Yeah, and I'm realizing I'm in my son's yard,
Yeah.
so I need to come off because I need to.
Should we close it up though?
Is that
Wrap up, yeah.
is that okay?
Should we wrap up?
Cool.
Yeah.
So we'll just do. So guys, thank you very much for another cracking session. And no doubt to be continued. And I will catch up with you both next week.
Thank you.
Peace and love.
No,
Take care.
take care.